Ezra Klein of the New York Times, the opinion columnist, reviews How to Blow Up a Pipeline, a book. You won't find, he writes, anywhere inside instructions on sabotaging energy infrastructure. A truer title would be Why to Blow Up a Pipeline. On this, Malm's case is straightforward because nothing else has worked. Decades of climate activism have gotten millions of people into the streets, but they haven't turned the tide on emissions or even investment. Citing a 2019 study in the journal Nature, Malm observed that, measured by capacity, 49% of the fossil fuel burning energy infrastructure now in operation was installed after 2004. And in the expected emissions from projects in some stage of the planning process, and we are most of the way toward warming the world by 2 degrees Celsius, a prospect scientists consider terrifying, and most world governments have repeatedly pledged to avoid. Some hoped that the pandemic would alter the world's course, but it hasn't. Oil consumption is hurtling back to pre-crisis levels, and demand for coal, the dirtiest of fuels, is rising. The question at the heart of Malm's book is why this isn't already happening, why environmentalists are not getting violent, putting pipelines out of commission, picking them apart, demolishing them, burning them, blowing them up. Let the capitalists who keep on investing in the fire know their properties will be trashed. Were we governed by reason, he writes, we would be on the barricades today, dragging the drivers of Range Rovers and Nissan Patrols out of their seats, occupying and shutting down the coal-burning power stations, bursting in upon the Blair's retreat from reality in Barbados, and demanding a reversal of economic life as dramatic as the one we bore when we went to war with Hitler. Now, here's the thing, and this is increasingly common on the left, and you do need to understand this overall. There is a trend on the left to claim that peaceful movements of protest were not really successful. So we hear this a lot in terms of the Black Lives Matter protesters burning down the streets of America. You've got Nicole Hannah-Jones out there saying that burning down private property isn't really violence. What you have is this belief now that the civil rights movement was made to be pretended to be peaceful, but actually it was pretty violent. And it was the violence that pushed people. It was the violence that actually caused people to change. Now, again, back to Ezra Klein. Malm offers 2 answers for the resolute nonviolence of the climate movement. The first is strategic pacifism, the belief that nonviolent protest is more effective than violent resistance. Much of the book is occupied by Malm's rebuttal to potted histories of past social movements, which is persuasive in parts. He's surely right that we sanitized past uprisings, lionizing the peaceful and blackening or forgetting the names of the violent. There is at least an argument that it's the interplay of forces that transform societies. There was no peaceful American Revolution. There were riots and rifles woven into the civil rights movement. Does this movement possess a radical flank? Asked Malm. As to whether blowing up pipelines would work here and now, Malm is less convincing. The likeliest outcome is that a few dozen climate activists would be jailed and a wave of laws criminalizing peaceful protests would sweep the nation. He's got no answer for those who fear the probable political consequences, a backlash that sweeps enemies of climate change into power, eliminating even the fragile hopes of policy progress. And on it goes. This is essentially Ezra Klein saying he's got ideas that are plausible, but Republicans might get elected. You've got a book now advocating violence to solve the climate change problem. And Ezra Klein at the New York Times is essentially saying, yeah, but the GOP would come to power, so maybe we shouldn't. I mean, he doesn't really have a rebuttal to the guy's argument other than, well, Republicans will get elected.